Count me in.
Okay, we'll wrap up our morning availability here with Jimmie Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet. Jimmie currently sits third in points with one win this season. Just talk a little bit about coming back to Michigan for the second time this season and your strategy as we move towards Richmond in the chase.
Yeah, I mean, I think our first goal is to try to lock into the chase as early as possible. I know that there are a few cars mathematically capable of doing that this weekend, and I'd love to be one or have that opportunity to do it. From there, I mean, we want to win races and get more bonus points, get more trophies, and get the momentum heading really in the right direction for the start of the chase. Our momentum as a team is going in the right direction. We're getting stronger and stronger. We're seeing improvements across the board, but a win does so much for a team and really puts a good spring in everyone's step. And I'd love to get a win before the chase starts and head off down that road. This track has been tough on me from a finish perspective. I've had a lot of good runs. I've led a lot of laps. As we all know, I've run out of gas a handful of times with the checkered flag in sight. So hopefully it's not a fuel mileage race, and hopefully we have the speed to race for it. When I think about the spring race, I think about the spin and the fact that we did some damage. I did some damage to the car driving it back to pit road on flat tires, and we really didn't have a chance to race during that event. We were trapped 2 laps down early, and quickly cars were 1 lap down, and at that point I never had a chance to get a lap back and to race for a decent finish. So we just kind of went through the motions here in the spring race and hoping for a lot more this fall race.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions for Jimmie. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start up front with Lee and then go to Nate and then Reed.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. Just to follow up from last week and asked you about road course races, adding them to the schedule. You mentioned, too, in Canada, is there anything specifically that you have in mind? And secondly, the part about would you like to see a road course race in the chase because, it would identify one of those races that, would make the champion a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my perspective on heading north and into Canada to race is from a fan hunger standpoint. We have a huge racing audience in Canada. The Canadian fans travel to Michigan, to Loudon, even further south to come see our sport, and their presence is felt. We sing their national anthem at certain racetracks for a reason. So I think it's an untapped market of sorts in an area where we can see some growth, get more eyeballs at the racetrack and more eyeballs on television, and in an area we should really consider moving to. It's easy from my seat because I don't own a track and I don't have to worry about the schedule and where dates go, but I would think that there's some weight in that angle and that thought process. So if it happens, I have no clue, but that's really the driving force behind it due to a large fan base and some great circuits up there. And I love road course racing and think that we could put on a good show at a few of the road courses up there. As far as in the chase, again, it boils down to personal preference. I enjoy road course racing. I love the discipline about it, and I think that it would make things very exciting in the chase. When you look at things, wild card races, and the lack of control you have at Talladega, I see road course racing as an area where I've seen some dispute about. It's not what we do all the time. It's maybe not fair. It's out of the driver's hands. I feel more in control at a road course race than I ever would and will at a restrictor plate race. So that's kind of my rebuttal to that discussion. And from my own personal preference, I'd like to see one. But again, there's a lot of other factors that go into it, and I'm not sure it'll happen. No, I mean just the stuff I've seen with the Nationwide and F1 in Montreal, and then what's the other track? Mossport. Yeah, I don't know if Mossport would work, but I guess first and foremost, I think of Montreal with the F1 presence and the Nationwide presence already being there. So you have the infrastructure kind of built from a fan perspective. I'm sure companies in the area, from a title sponsorship standpoint for the events, TV packages. I mean, everything's kind of there, and we can really capitalize on it.
Okay, our next question from Nate, then we'll go to Reed and Steve.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Jimmy, Brad Keselowski's performance the last couple of weeks not just established him as a championship contender, but it seems like it's changed his perception of him by a lot of veterans in the series who I think once thought of him as a punk, and now he's kind of a tougher guy. Could you kind of expand on that? Do you look at him differently based on what he's done at Pocono and the Glen?
I can't say that it's due to just those two events. I mean, those two races definitely, and being there at the test session and watching what he went through and the pain he was experiencing getting out of the car, there are different areas that I have more respect for him in. But I look at more of where the team was this point last year or last season versus this year, and I know how difficult it is to have equipment advancing and having your race cars fast and working with teammates to make sure the company progresses forward. So I have a lot of respect for what his part is in the growth and the speed that Penske Racing has, along with Paul Wolfe and Addington. I mean, those guys have done an awesome job as a group, taking their cars from where they were to where they are now. So from my perspective for Brad, has been more of over the course of the year than really the last two races. And the last two races didn't hurt by any means, but you can't argue with the success that they have started kind of late spring, early summer, and they've been rolling.
So you think he's had an impact on that as a driver? In terms of
Absolutely. This is a team sport. A driver has his part, has to do his job along with engineers, crew chiefs, and so forth. So Brad has absolutely done his part to advance his team, the two team, and Penske as well.
Next question from Reed, then we'll go to Steve and Mike.
Reed Spencer with Sporting News. Speaking of wild card races, Bristol is a place that has changed a lot in recent years. As a driver, now that there are two grooves there, now that it's concrete surface, do you guys look at that race as still the potential wild card, potential wild show that we used to have there? And is there that much trepidation going to that place now, or do you feel more in control there?
I feel a lot more in control going to Bristol these days. And from a guy sitting behind the wheel, you want options and opportunities to race, and the track has that now. In a certain respect, we almost have 3 lanes that you can run on around the racetrack, especially as the race wears on and the groove gets pushed out. So behind the wheel, that's what we want. That's what we ask for. That's what they gave us. So it's unfortunate that some people don't see it that way. They prefer the old track and the craziness that would take place. But as a driver, you want to have a chance to race, and we have a chance to race there now.
Steve Richards, PRN. Can you explain at Bristol about how fast things happen at Bristol to the general race fan? Can you try to explain it?
Yeah, not only is it fast. I mean, we make a lap in 15-ish seconds, depending on the run and the tire. But the hard thing is also visibility, and that helps enhance the sensation of speed. When you go into a corner at Bristol, the radius of the turn is so sharp that you would literally need a sunroof to see the exit of the corner. I mean, because you go into the corner and the exit's over here. So not only are you going really fast in a small area, you can't see much. You only see, as you're going into the corner, you maybe can only see 5 car lengths in front of you, 6 car lengths. And when something happens, you see it late, and then you're going fast so you can't stop, and then there's no room, and it just compounds from there and puts on exciting races, exciting stuff, and puts us in a position where we just have to build a lot of trust in spotters and assuming things are okay in front of you and just hoping for the best.
Okay, Mike.
Mike Muller, MikeMuller.net. You know more about the first turn at Watkins Glen than I hope I ever learn about, and yet we saw Denny Hamlin go down there about the same way you did in 2000. What should be done there, and why aren't you drivers more proactive in making these tracks safer? I mean, we talked to Jeff about that. There's Las Vegas, there's Pocono, there's Richmond, there's Watkins Glen, there's Road America.
Well, I mean, we put a lot of trust in NASCAR, the tracks, and we understand the effort that has been put in place to make tracks safer. Unfortunately, we're at a stage now where the obvious things are fixed, and it's down to the details. And it takes freak accidents to say, wow, we should have thought of that. Some things after it happens are just overly obvious, and you're like, why didn't we think of that? But you just don't. So I I would love to be involved, and NASCAR certainly listens, but we all get busy and get into our things, and maybe there needs to be an official committee that's set up, and there's an effort made by maybe tracks, NASCAR drivers, something going on there where at each weekend you carve out an hour at a time, and this group goes around and looks for the fine things, and that's really where we're at. So it's unfortunate that it takes these massive wrecks for us to say, wow, we shouldn't have that, but at times it does. When I think of Denny's crash in turn one, the sand trap maybe would have helped them there. My situation, how fast I was going and the angle I had, I didn't even touch the sand trap. So, for any given wreck, it's hard to think through every possible thing that could take place. It seemed obvious after the wreck that took place going into the S's that those blunt angle walls, they don't work. They just really ricochet a car around and create a lot of issues and give you a bad impact angle. We don't typically have those angles on ovals, but you do on road courses. And when you look around a road course, man, there's a lot of those blunt angles. So where do we start? How do we do it? How do we systematically work through it? It's a big project, and I feel like everybody has the driver's safety at top of mind and wants to make it that way. We just need to be a little bit more efficient and try to be more proactive instead of reactionary.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, Jim Pilley with RacingToday.com. Jimmy, are you at all surprised that it's taken an organization owned and operated by Roger Penske to get this consistently good? I mean, he's never won a championship. He always seemed to be second tier.
Yeah, when I look at the overall stats of Penske and how successful he has been in not off-road racing, but open-wheel racing, and the dominance that he's had there, at times I wonder, wow, he hasn't had that type of success at the Cup level, and we all know his effort and his commitment to the sport, but it just shows how difficult the sport is. And I think about Roger as an example, and I think about Childress and what they went through a couple years back, what Roush went through last year. You can argue to a certain extent that HMS has had its fair share of problems this year, and we're working through some issues. So any company is no company's immune to it. But I am surprised that Roger hasn't won a Cup championship with everything else that's gone on.
Okay, Wolfgang.
Wolfgang Munzer from Germany. Jimmy, just a question to clear that up. Do you have in NASCAR and the Sprint Cup among drivers, like in Europe, a drivers' association who is looking after interest of drivers, particularly in the safety area?
No, there's not that I'm aware of. There aren't any unions of sorts from a safety standpoint. We've always been encouraged to walk into the truck and express our safety concerns to the NASCAR officials. So there's nothing organized, though.
Final questions for Jimmy? Jimmy, thank you very much for your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.